Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey everybody, what's happening? How are you? This light is bright, man. Okay, that's better. Hey, how's everybody doing? I believe it's Halloween today. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. Okay. So here we are. I just came well, not rushing, but I came moving quickly up the mountain to get here on time to do the show. So I'm just kind of getting in and putting my butt in the chair. To quantify, I guess, my groceries are literally sitting on the floor next to me because I haven't had time to put them away. So here we are, and today I was down in the city, and I was kind of thinking, what should I talk about tonight? And you know, it's this terminal uniqueness comes up. I don't know. It's like everything else, I guess, is patterns. It comes up in rhythms. Like it'll come up multiple times, and then it won't come up for a while. But terminal uniqueness is actually a very common outlook, and of course, people don't realize that they're doing it. It's kind of like victimization, the victim mentality. I mean, most of us would say that, I don't consider myself a victim. But how we talk to ourselves and what we do is it's completely victim mentality. Oh, yeah, Faith, go ahead, go eat your food. She's crying. She wants to go eat. I don't know why she does that. But yeah, so it's, the victim mentality is, we don't realize that we're doing it. And like I've said many times, I mean, I even catch myself being in the victim mentality sometimes. And I really dislike the energy of the victim mentality. This is it's really a big thing with me, that everybody has their things, and there's certain things that really rub me the wrong way or grab my attention extremely quick, or really capture my attention as opposed to just kind of grabbing my attention. Victim mentality is one of those things. It's just I believe that this way of life is all about empowerment and finding the power within yourself and connecting to it, and finding ways to look at things where we're not victims of things and victims of life. So it's a very empowering outlook. So even though victim mentality, that energy rubs me the wrong way, and as a general rule, I don't live in the victim mentality. Every once in a while, I do still catch myself in the victim mentality, so. And if you look at how the world lives, they're immersed in it. And most people would say, no, I don't consider myself a victim. And yet they walk through everyday life. Terminal uniqueness is very similar to that. It's it's under the radar. We don't realize we're doing it, but we do it. This is where we land when we get on the pity pot. It's terminal uniqueness. We start thinking that, our yeah, but if you only knew what I went through. I I giggle when I say that, because it's like, if you know s- sometimes people forget what I've been through, like, and all the where I came from before I woke up. And it's, then they're like, well, you don't understand. I'm like, yeah, I do. I've been there. I've been to worse places than a lot of people, especially in developed worlds. People in non-developed worlds, there's and in developed worlds, there's plenty of people that have had it worse than I have. But it's not a contest like that. It's not about that. This is actually literally the opposite of that. This is understanding that we've all had our struggles, and the idea that we're different than other people it will literally kill us. It will make you suffer. It will make you depressed. It will make you lose hope. It will make you lose sight of reality. It will make you feel alone. All you name it, man. All the building blocks of depression can come right out of terminal uniqueness. you know it's when people, that's what, like, sometimes people ask me, they're like, how do you know when somebody's ready to change? It's like, well, basically they can understand what I'm saying. It's kind of that easy, because if I start explaining to somebody that there's another way, like, let's say they tell me what issue they're having, and I go, okay, well, you can look at that differently, and I explain something to them, and they go, you don't understand, or, well, easy for you to say, or, well, that, that I don't get it, or they just blow it off, then they're not ready. Like, they and it has nothing to do with how much suffering they've been through. People can go through enormous amounts of suffering and not awaken, and many people die because of that. This is why I say, like, terminal uniqueness will kill you. That's why it's called terminal uniqueness, because it will kill you if left unaddressed. It's killed many people. It's because it squashes the hope. If you're the only one that is like this, and nobody else has experienced what you've experienced, or it's not as bad or whatever, if you're the only one, then you can't look at one. If you think you're the only one, you've obviously lost touch with reality right there. And then you start believing it, because you're not the only one. There's been billions and billions and billions there's billions and billions and billions of people alive right now, let alone how many billions and billions and trillions and gazillions of people that have been on the planet over the last 100,000 years or whatever. And, like, nobody's seen it like you. Nobody's been through what you have been through. Like, really? Okay, if you think that that's true, then you don't understand reality, because it's simply not true. It can't be. you know it can't be. We're all in this together. And, just to put it into perspective, like, emotional suffering isn't like the thing that is making your particular circumstances that are inducing the emotional suffering. Your resistance is inducing the emotional suffering. But bear with me. Whatever circumstances are you're suffering over, is not the only thing that causes the suffering, because some people are in those same circumstances and they're doing better. Some people are in those same circumstances and they're doing worse. So it's not your circumstances alone that determines the level of suffering. It's how you're handling it, how you're processing it, what you're doing with it. That's even bigger. So it's not all about that. And, to put it into perspective, like, sometimes adults will, I don't want to say make fun of, because it's not really making fun of. They've just lost touch with what it's like to be a child, so they minimize. That's a better word. A lot of times adults will minimize a child's suffering because, they're like, oh, well, um, I lost a loved one to cancer and my house got foreclosed on and I got fired from my job. And this kid's crying because somebody took his crayon. Wait till he gets older. He doesn't understand real troubles. He doesn't understand real suffering. But what they're forgetting is that when you're 3, that crayon is everything to you. Like, that's part of you. You're actually it's even more so than we realize, because toddlers, like, they actually start forming their ego, which is their mind-made belief system of who they think they are. So they start running around going, me, mine, me. And so, like, when somebody takes their crayon, if they're identified with that crayon as being part of them, because they don't understand separation. Like, like, children come into this world, babies come into this world, and we're all one. They're completely they're completely dependent on others. So they're just like, I hope all these other energies will take care of me, especially the ones that are around me a lot. They seem to really love me. But then over time, being on this earth, they start understanding the dream of the planet, which is this illusion of separation, that we're all separate and we're not connected, we're not one. So they start, they don't know the difference between their arm and a crayon. To them, it's mine. This is why they scream like that. Mine. Like, they literally think that, like, well, if this is me, and then I have things and those are mine, then those are part of me too. So mine. So if somebody tries to take that, some of them can lose their mind depending on where they are with their identification with their ego. They can actually throw a fit, like somebody took their arm. Now, of course, it's not as painful as if somebody took their arm, but they don't know that. They've never lost an arm. All they know is part of themselves is being dragged away, and they don't understand that. So, like, it can cause immense suffering depending on your perspective. Right? That's what it is. That determines it. It's your perspective. It's how you're processing the situation, what you think is happening, how you're looking at it. And it's the same with a child as it is with an adult. It's how we're looking at it that determines the level of suffering. If we're resisting the reality of it, then we're going to suffer more. So that's my overview with terminal uniqueness. So, hey, Pam, long time no see. Pam was just over here in the DR for a retreat with me. No class, no clients. So she's tuning in from New Mexico. Sweet. And Sarah's here. God knows where, Sarah. California somewhere? What's the other place? Colorado? I have to remember it's usually C states with you. California, Colorado. Yeah, and guys, chime in if you have any questions about this terminal uniqueness, questions, comments, ways for me to expand on this that's going to help others. So the terminal uniqueness, the first time I heard that term was in recovery. And they say they say there's tons of sayings in recovery, but sometimes you hear the term terminal uniqueness, and you also hear kind of the opposite of it, which where I was, they phrased it like, we're just another bozo on the bus. Oh, Sarah's in Ohio. Well, that throws off my whole C state thing. It's round on both ends and high in the middle. Ohio. So what the heck was I saying? Oh, another bozo on the bus. So yeah, so it's like, hey, I'm just another bozo on the bus. Another place that you may have heard this mentality in a beneficial way is the Dalai Lama, especially, and other people. I've heard other people other than just the Dalai Lama, like possibly Bishop Desmond Tutu. Those two have a lot in common, but other people that are often spiritual leaders of larger communities, um like I said, namely the Dalai Lama. And like he says, I'm just a Buddhist monk. How he looks at himself is very important. It keeps things in perspective. I'm just a simple Buddhist monk. That's how he views himself. And it's important because it keeps him grounded. It keeps him away from the terminal uniqueness. And I mean, like, so next time you feel alone and nobody understands you, and, you're the only one that's been through what you've been through, compare yourself to the Dalai Lama. Like, I mean, that dude, he almost could have a version of terminal uniqueness. Like, I mean, how many people have lived a life similar to him? you know I mean, being the political and spiritual leader of this community, being, out of his own country for almost his whole life, like, watching his people suffer. I mean, wow, that's a very unique situation, but he stays connected with his people. And this is also, when we connect with others, it's really weird, man. This is something that I don't know if I have the words to explain it, quite honestly. And that's kind of what I do, is find words to explain things that it's hard to find words to explain. It's like that's the big thing, because I can never tell you what something is in spiritual terms. I can just point towards it. It's never it. It's just in the direction of it. The words that I say are always just signposts pointing towards something. You can never actually say it, because if you can say it, then it's minimized into a mental construct and a word, and that is not big enough to actually describe anything on a spiritual level. It's Everything on a spiritual level is too grand to be minimized into a simple thought form that a word can express. It's just too much, you know. So it's hard to find words. I had to create a whole, vocabulary to do this stuff. So, but the Dalai Lama, it's interesting because, his absence of terminal uniqueness, his mentality of just being one of many, being just a simple person, then he can deal with his emotions, and he can deal with, his thoughts, and he can feel part of. So like and the feeling part of really does breed compassion. It's So this is the one this is the exact aspect that's difficult to put into words. But if you try it, I would say that many of you will be able to do it. You'll be able to feel it. So I'll try to point towards what I'm talking about with some words. Like when you're feeling separate, and you're feeling alone, and there's this aspect of terminal uniqueness, if you start letting that go and you start viewing yourself as one of many, like it depends. It could be a part of your family. You could start viewing yourself as one that is part of the awakening community. People that are on spiritual path. What It doesn't really matter. People in recovery, if you're in recovery, if you're and honestly, like, you just pick what works for you for the particular moment or the particular situation. Sometimes you could identify as one of women, one of many women, or one of many men, or just another bozo on the bus, or a kid, or an adult. Like, we're more alike than we are different. So if you're having some difficulty, and you're feeling alone, then if you start, going through a mental exercise to understand, like, how you are a part of a group, like, we really are more alike than we are different. So if you go down deep, you start connecting to how we're alike. We're different on the surface. Everybody's different on the surface. We're supposed to be different on the surface. There's a reason that we're different on the surface. So, like, but that's the thing that breeds the terminal uniqueness, when we're overly identified on the surface, and then we're like, oh, well, my name's Glenn. I don't know that many other Glens. And, like, I'm a white guy from Massachusetts living in the Dominican Republic in the mountains. There ain't many of those. I mean, I can figure out a way how I'm different than other people, but what's more important is how I'm alike. I'm just a guy, man. And I'm just a person, and I'm just a spiritual being having a human experience. And this spiritual being, is just energy, and it's eternal, just like every other energy that's on this planet and other planets, probably. I'm just one of, and on a human level, we all want the same things. I mean, we all want to be loved. We all want to love. We all want to be heard. We all want to be respected. That's it. We all want the same things. We're all the same. Now, okay, you go, like, I use, so many people are familiar with that book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. So I use it as an example. Like, that book can benefit people to some degree, because you can learn to understand. If you're a man, you can understand women. If you're a woman, you can understand men. But I don't like the approach, because it's all surfacey. Like, if you go underneath and connect to where we're the same, and then work your way up towards the differences, this is where, because then your foundation is we're the same. And then you're working up. Like, otherwise, if you're focused on how you're different, then you're like, okay, I'm different from you, and I have to try to understand something I don't understand. So I'll try, but how am I ever going to really do it? Because I'm not you. So how am I ever going to really understand it? It's almost like there's a built-in wall there, and you might be able to understand some of it, but you're not going to understand all of it. And you're not going to think to understand all of it, because you're living your life from your perspective. So, there's kind of built-in problems with that. Like I said, I mean, it does have benefits. Don't get me wrong. I just like coming at things from where we're the same. We all want to be loved. Oh, well, so instead of me going, I'll try to use some freaking classic example that, of some sexism freaking thing. Like, this isn't necessarily true, especially in this day and age. I'm just trying to use an example to make my point. So, like, some guy is mowing the lawn and going to work and taking care of the house and all this stuff. And then he comes in and sits down and eats dinner and goes and watches TV. Now the wife, worked all hard all day, taking care of the kids, making the dinner. She did it for him. She'd like a little, thanks for all the stuff she's done, and he doesn't even think about it. And it's been, and now this goes into the different love languages. People express love differently, which isn't based on gender. Some people like to hear I love you. Some people like to here, thank you. Some people like gifts. Some people like physical touch. So there's all these ways of expressing love, and if your love language is different, then that this person thinks that you never show them love, and you're like, yeah, but I bring you a gift every day. Like, so what does that have to do with love? Physical touch. Oh, well, I'm gift giving. That's why I give you gifts all the time. So there's all this possibility of misconstruing things, and even if you're stuck up there on the surface, it's even hard, like finding out that you're different. Like, how are you supposed to know that there's different love languages if you've never heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages? How would you ever find out that somebody else likes receiving love in a way other than you do? You'd probably never find that out, because if you stay on the surface, because on the surface, you're different. Like, I like this. Well, that doesn't make sense. I like this. Well, that doesn't make sense. And it's just, that's weird. And you just never really understand each other. But if you start at the bottom where you're the same, where you go, well, I want to feel special in this relationship. I actually want to feel like I'm loved. Oh, I want to feel loved too. Oh, you do? Yeah. Oh, so we both want to feel loved. Yes. Oh, okay, good. So, yeah, how can I make you feel loved? Well, when you do this, that makes me feel loved. Really? Huh. Because when you do that for me, it doesn't make me feel loved. Really? What makes you feel loved? Well, when you do this. Huh. So we must just express love differently. Isn't that interesting? See how it's almost logical to find the answer when you start at the bottom where you're the same and then work your way up towards the differences? Because you're already assuming you're the same. So you're like, oh, no, we both want to feel loved. Oh, okay, cool. We're the same. Okay, how do we do that? Oh, that's different. Huh. Oh, well, whatever. Now we know. But it's almost like you stumble right into the answer if you start where you're the same. The problem is most people get stuck up at the surface where we're different. And then as soon as we start going through difficulties, our ego creates separation. This is why terminal uniqueness is such a problem, because the ego creates separation. One of the best ways it creates separation is through complaining. So by complaining, what we're doing is just by, unconscious default, whenever we complain about anything, what we're doing is we're saying, if it were up to me, I would do it differently and I would do it better. Now that could be better than a situation. If we complain about politics, well, then if it were up to you, you would do it better than the politicians. So therefore you're better than the politicians. Politicians down here, they suck, and you're up here, you're good. So then you're better. And that's an ego stroke. It creates separation. It expands your ego. You feel better about yourself. And this is what the ego does all the time. And it's like, it does the same thing when we're complaining about the weather. Doesn't it suck that it's raining? Oh, well, if it were up to you, it wouldn't be raining. So therefore you're better than God. I know it sounds silly. I used a ridiculous example on purpose, but it's just because our unconscious, we don't know what we're doing when we're doing it because we live unconsciously. So when we complain, by default, what we're saying is we are better than the situation or the person or the imaginary person or the entity. We're better than whatever we're complaining about, because, what's the energy of it? What's the point? I mean, oh, well, what's the point of complaining? We do. If people do something, it's because it works on some level. Now, it could be on a dysfunctional level, but it still works. People don't run around. People complain all the time. there's no way people would be complaining as much as they do, because basically everybody does it. Why would everybody do something that has no point? Zero. You don't feel better. You don't like, there's just no point. I mean, if you're sitting in a room of awakened people, and and somebody came in and said, well, the color of that cabinet is stupid, the awakened people would probably be like, I don't understand why he said that. It means nothing. Well, the floor's crooked. That's stupid. Like, what's the point? That there's literally no point to complaining. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make anything better. So why do people do it? It's because they get an ego stroke out of it. And it creates separation between you and whatever you're complaining about. And in this, like, the ego wants separation. Because if you're one, it doesn't, there's no danger there to protect you from. And that's what your ego's job is to protect you from danger. So like, if everything's fine and we're all one and it's cool, then it's kind of out of a job, So it likes creating separation, because then it has more stuff to protect you from. Oh, yeah, you're over here and I'm going to protect you, and we just have to keep you separate from all this dangerous stuff. Now I'm in control and I'm the most important entity here. I'm at work. So it's, so it's constantly, so this is why when we lean into the terminal uniqueness, it's ego based. We're immersed in ego mentality because we feel that we're separate. So we to ground from that, we have to ground. There's no safety in separateness. There's safety in togetherness. Real safety, like, I mean, how are you going to feel safe if you're all alone, all on an island? Like, there's no safety there, but if you're with other people that are going through similar things, now there's some safety. Let's see. So let's see what this is. Hey, Linda, welcome. If you work with a lot of people who complain, is there a way to turn the conversation in a more positive direction? Sometimes. Sometimes there is. So it's, one thing, like, I just don't, I worked, I forgot, 9 years or something out in the public with other jobs with normal normal people who were not on the spiritual path, right? So like, I had quite a bit of experience with this, and I mean, some, you just kind of got to read your room. I mean, there's different techniques. Like, sometimes you just walk away. Like, I just used to walk away. If people were standing around complaining, I'd walk away. And and then after they got to know me a little bit, I might explain a little bit more and more why. I just, or if they asked me, I might explain more. Sometimes I just walk away, or sometimes, like, as a general rule, I used to, well, I still try to, I think, is I make it about me. When you're on a spiritual path and you're dealing with people who aren't, always make it about you. Where a lot of times people ask me, how do I handle a situation with these other people, negative people? And like, by default, what we usually do is we usually start thinking about them. Like, they're complaining. What do I do with them? And it's not about them. Turn it back on us. It's like, I'm around people that are complaining and I don't like that. So what do I do? So and that kind of gives you a hint on what you can say. You say something about you, Just be like, I used to tell people all the time, I'd be like, yeah, I'm really trying to work on I'm working on living a happier life. And so one of the things I'm trying to do is just not talk about anything negative. Just not, I'm not getting into any of those conversations. I'm just trying that and seeing how it works. And it's about me, so people don't get offended, you know? And I mean, every once in a while somebody will, but let them. It's about them. If they get offended, it's about them. But I mean, sometimes I would do that. Sometimes I would change the conversation to something positive. If people are standing around complaining, be like, hey, see the Red Sox game last night? Great game. Anything positive just to shift it, and yeah, and little by little, I throw little crumbs about what I'm doing with my life, and then people start understanding me, and then, after a while, I've literally had people run in the door, that had some problem in traffic and go, Glenn, you're never going to guess what happened to me. This freaking meathead driving down here, he comes in. Oh, wait, you don't talk about stuff like this, do you? And I'd just be standing there kind of looking at him going, nah. I'd be like, okay. And then they just go to the next person. Hey, Bob, so this guy in traffic, man, and they just go find somebody else. They don't care. Like, they just want to feed their ego. They could care less if they feed it with me because it's not about me. It's about them feeding their ego. So they don't care who they're talking at in order to get their food. It's helpful if they're talking to somebody that will play the game and feed it and go like, oh, no way. Really? Oh, I hate when that happens. Like, then they're getting food. It's like, yes, I'm even more right. This person even backs me in it. He understands. I'm really right. I'm immensely better than that person that cut me off in traffic. Wow, I'm way up here and they're way down here. Because other people understand how wonderful I am and how horrible they are. So that's even more egoic food. Yeah. So the more people they can tell and feed, the better, And a lot of times it's like people will come out of the woodwork if it's real negative. Somebody will be talking about something negative and somebody, what's that about? Oh, they all want to feed. It's like a feeding frenzy, So yeah, changing the subject, telling people that, you're working on yourself and you're just trying to stay away from negative conversations, or I'm trying not to complain, whatever's suitable for the particular situation, and walking away, like I was amazed when I really started monitoring the conversations that I got into, and I refused to lie too. I did that at the same time, like not lying and learning to interact with people in a different way all at the same time. It's interesting because you really have to pay attention to the situation, and you start understanding that like you you don't actually have to talk in a conversation. Like, especially if there's a group of people talking, like, you don't actually have to put your 2 cents in. There's this unconscious pressure that feels like we're supposed to be a part of, and we're supposed to lean in, and we don't actually have to, So, like, I used to just keep my mouth shut, and sometimes if I felt like standing in the circle, I would think about something else. Or sometimes if I didn't, I'd be like, I'm going to go get some work done. And I would just head out. As soon as the conversation turned negative, I'd be like, I'm going to get back to work. And I'd just head out and go back to work. And then after a while, people would come up to me and be like, hey, you seem to leave the conversations like in the middle, or when it gets real negative, or some people catch on. It's somewhat rare. It depends on the people that you're working with, though. So So when you're in a situation, it's this, I mean, whoever's listening to me, in they're either working on themselves or interested in working on themselves. That's why they're listening. So if you're working on yourself or you're interested in working on yourself, like we all, and this is part of why you are not terminally unique, we all go through the same things. This is, like I tell people all the time, I literally tell people what they're thinking and what they thought yesterday and last week. And I can go through little mind games in their head that they're going through. And a lot of times I'll stop and I'll go, now, how did I know? They'll be like, that sounds exactly like what goes on in my head. And I'm like, right. So how did I know that? Like, how do I know? I don't know you. I don't know what goes on inside your head. I can't climb inside of you. I wasn't inside your brain yesterday at noon listening to the thoughts that were going on inside of your head. So how could I possibly know the exact pattern and way of thinking that your brain was doing yesterday at noon? How could I possibly know that? It's because we all think like that. We all have these crazy brains that run crazy down crazy train. I've heard it, I've experienced it myself for many years. I've heard it from multiple clients. When I first got sober, like to me it was, we learned about alcoholism. And to me that was, that literally saved my life. I was close to dead. And AA and learning about alcoholism and the isms or the behaviors of alcoholics and how they're similar to other people, it taught me to get rid of my terminal uniqueness. I thought that I was the only one that thought like this. I thought I was the only one that suffered like this. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was, the only one. I was terminally unique. And then to find out that I was an alcoholic and it was a relief. It's a huge relief to a lot of people, not just me. It's a huge relief when somebody like actually understands that they're an alcoholic or an addict. I mean, I don't know, like we're in the information age now. So it's like maybe people know sooner. I think they do. But like still, once you finally fully accept it, that is your problem, that life isn't a complete cluster, it's like you're the problem, and there's hundreds of millions of people, billions of people that are just like you, and it's like, oh, thank God. Thank God I'm an alcoholic. Thank God, I thought I was crazy. Like a lot of people experience a certain level of relief when they find out what their actual problem is, once there's a label on it, because it's like, oh, thank God, at least I'm not crazy, one. And two, you start connecting with other people with that same problem. It's like, wow, so that was very healing and very wonderful for me. But that kind of happened to me twice because after about 7-8 years of being immersed in the recovery community, and working with people in that community and taking people through the steps and socializing and all that stuff, then all of a sudden I started getting this pull away from AA, which surprised me. But once I separated myself a little bit, and I'm not saying you need to do this to expand your spirituality, it was just my particular path. Once I separated and I started working with people that did not have addiction problems, I started realizing like, oh my God, like all alcoholics are not as unique as they think they are. There's this bonding that occurs with other alcoholics because you can relate to one another and you're like, oh my God, I'm not crazy. You felt like that too. You thought like that too. You drank like that too. Right. So it's this community sense. So it gets rid of the terminal uniqueness and you become part of a community and you feel safe in that community and you feel loved and you feel like you're one of, and it's like, oh, okay. and that aspect of it is really cool and really helpful. But then once I start working with more normal people and even associating with them just in my everyday life, I started realizing like all the things that alcoholics struggle with, normal people, non-alcoholics, non-addicts struggle with the exact same stuff, Everybody struggles with the exact same stuff. Like another, really what alcoholism is being maladjusted to life. It's like when you recover, it says you recover from a hopeless state of mind and body. A hopeless state of mind and body. That's actually the alcoholic condition. That's what it is. Alcohol is actually the solution. It's not the problem. The problem is that you are maladjusted to life. So you're suffering because you're incongruent with life. So after a while of suffering and being incongruent with life, you find alcohol. Alcohol makes you feel better. So you start using it. So now it's a crappy solution because it will kill you and it will make you lose everything, but it is a solution. It's not the problem. The problem is that you're maladjusted to life. Then I get out and start dealing with everybody else, and I'm like, oh my God, everybody else is maladjusted to life also. They just don't turn to alcohol for their solution. They turn to shopping, they turn to sex, they turn to relationships, they turn to getting lost in work. They turn to being distracted on social media and by TV and anything else, and prescription drugs and antidepressants, anything that can prevent them from feeling like crap about themselves because they are maladjusted to life. Anything. This is why everybody is so busy in this world. Do you think we're busier because we're more productive? We're not more productive. We're less productive, but we're busier. Why? So we must be getting something out of it. We're getting distracted. And when we're distracted, we don't feel all the suffering and the pain that's being caused from us being maladjusted to life. So everybody's dealing with the same stuff. Everybody feels lonely. Everybody feels unloved. Everybody feels unheard. Everybody feels disrespected. Everybody feels confused. Everybody doesn't understand the meaning of life. Like what it hits at different stages and in different ways, but we live in an unconscious society. I mean, most people on the planet are unconscious to what their passions are, what really makes them feel alive, how they feel love, how to experience love. Like everybody's disconnected from all that stuff, and they're just doing their best to get by, And then we find most people, what they do is they compare their insides to everybody else's outsides. So they're, oh, I feel like crap. And I'll use the example I usually use because it's true. People will sit at a deli having lunch, looking at somebody else going, wow, look at them. They have it all together. They're reading this wonderful book. They're eating something healthy and they're dressed nicely and they've got their life all together. I'm a mess. I'm a complete mess. And I don't know why can't I have it together like that person has it together? And then that person is sitting there eating their lunch. They're not reading their book. They're just pretending that they're reading their book. So nobody will talk to them because they're lost in their head about all the crap that's going on wrong in their life. And they're looking out of the corner of their eye over at you. And they're going, look at this person over here. They're just sitting here having a freaking sandwich. I wish I could just sit there and have a sandwich. I have to have the perfect meal. I have to pretend I'm reading the perfect book. I have to have the perfect outfit on. There's so much pressure. I'm not myself. I don't even know who I am. I'm a mess. I'm a lunatic. And I want to go kill myself. And the two people are pointing the finger at each other, thinking the other one's got it all together. This is literally what's happening. And then, we look at all the problems in the world, right? Why are there problems? Why are there problems in the world? The problems are societal problems, okay? the politicians, the structures that may the big business, the pharmaceutical company, whoever you want to point your finger at is part of a society. Like, they can't just go do things. They do things that are allowed by society. Society has the power. The people have the power. If you have, I don't even know how many people are in some of the bigger, more developed countries, but if you have 100 million people, and they went, and a majority of them said, "This is ridiculous. You guys can't do that." It wouldn't be done. It's that simple. Society allows this stuff. And what is society? Society is a group of people. That's all a society is. So, like, you have to understand that there's about 75% of society, and that's a large percentage, probably more, that are unconscious. They're not bad people. They're probably actually very wonderful people. But they're not aware of how they're living, why they're living that way, what's important to them, and they don't live in alignment with their moral values in most things. They're busy feeding their ego by complaining about traffic and work and pretending they're a victim of the world and all that, and just trying to make ends meet. And they're busy going around. And meanwhile, the politicians take advantage of it, and big business takes advantage of it. And then they sit back and they go, "Oh my God, I'm powerless." No, you're not. You're actually the one that has the power. They don't. If you tell them they can't play their game no more, they don't play their game no more, But so my point is that 75% of the people are dysfunctional. They are not living in a way that they are happy. They are not living in a way that's alignment with their moral values completely. I mean, they're living mostly moral. I'm sure a lot of them are. But I'm just saying completely. There are incongruencies, is my point. I'm not saying these people are bad or nothing like that. I'm saying that they're unaware of the power that they have. They're unaware that they are letting society fall apart right in front of them. They're just unaware. So, and they're working jobs that they don't like. Most of them are in marriages or relationships that they don't like. I mean, with a 50% divorce rate, you got 50% right there. Then you got to figure out at least half the people that are in relationships don't want to be in them. The ones that stay in them, I mean, at least half of them would get out if they thought they could, or they thought they should, or whatever. Half of them are staying. So you got about 25% of the people that are actually in happy relationships. You probably have about 25% of the people that actually like their jobs. So, and I mean, a lot of this is by study. I mean, just go look it up. So what we're doing is we're sitting there and we're wondering, all of the people that are working, like I said, most of the people that I'm talking to are people who are at least starting to work on themselves. So we sit here as those of us that are trying to work on ourselves, and we look at those people who make up basically 75% of the society, the ones that fit in, and we go, why can't I be like them? Why do you want to be like them? They're dysfunctional. Most of them are in relationships that they don't like. They're working jobs that they don't like. They're unfulfilled. They're not happy. They're distracted. They're addicted to either prescription drugs, illegal drugs, alcohol, sex, relationships, shopping, or something else. And this is who you want to be like. You want to be like a bunch of people that are so discontented that they don't like their own life, and it's being reflected back. I mean, if we had 75% happy people on the planet, we would not have the government we do. There'd be no way, because we'd just stand up and go, "No, you have to leave." Well, you can't kick us out because that's not how the law works. Okay, well, you're impeached, and we're going to put in the next person, and we're going to tell him to do it. No, still no law. Okay, you either pass a law or we're going to impeach you too. So you need to change the law. No, okay, you're impeached. Next, will you do what we're telling you to do? Yes, okay, thought so. Great. Okay, you do what we're telling you to do. And the Congress with the term limits and this getting paid until you die crap and all this stuff and and their medical insurance and all this stuff, that's gone. Like we could do that. We could do that in a year if we just decided to. But nobody's sitting there. So what my point is that when you look at the problems of a society, don't sit there and think that it came out of thin air. Oh my God, I don't know how things got this bad. It got bad by everybody in the middle sitting there with their mouth shut. That's how it got bad. It got bad by everybody in the middle lowering their standards of what was okay. It amazes me, like the things that pass in politics, and I don't even follow politics, but like I started watching some football recently, so I hear so I hear commercials which I haven't heard in years, and the commercials are unbelievable. And now, like they're there's some elections going on in the US. So so I'm hearing a bunch of commercials about politics, and the stuff that they're saying on these political ads are ridiculous. That half of them shouldn't even be political issues. I don't even know why people are voting on it. It's like now we're going to vote on, like, if you have a filling, if you can go to the dentist. When did that become a political issue? Like it's just ridiculous. It's just it's immersed into our culture, and in everything that we do and say, there's politics involved and control and big business, and we just sit there, and then another law passes, and we go, "Oh my God, I can't believe this!" Like, why can't you believe it? They're gonna wait 3 months. They're gonna pass another one that's even stupider. That's a bad word. More stupid. The most stupidest. They haven't reached the most stupidest yet. But you just wait. I mean, you think things are messed up now? We have completely lost. We have given away all our power. So just sit back and watch. Don't bother getting upset. Just sit back and watch over the next year, 2 years. And just keep a list of the things that get more and more stupid that are passed by law, because they have free reign right now. They can pass whatever they want. They've proven that, and they know it. They've passed such ridiculous stuff. They've made us do such ridiculous stuff through this COVID thing, jumping through hoops and all that, this ridiculous stuff that they have no backing for, and they're coming out and saying that they don't have backing for it, and it's because it doesn't matter. They can make the public do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, and then afterwards come back and say, yeah, we didn't know what we were doing, and nobody does anything. So then they just make them do a bunch of other stuff, and then they go, yeah, oh, we didn't know what we were doing. And if they think people might get upset enough to act, they'll just say, okay, we're not going to give the public that information for 75 years or 25 years or 3 years or whatever fits our purpose. Oh, okay. And everybody just sits there. So, like, my point is this doesn't come out of nowhere. This is a reflection of the people in it. If the people in it were empowered, were happy, understood life, were conscious, walking around, making decisions, they would look at things and they would go, this is inappropriate. This shouldn't be done. We're not putting up with it. And they'd all get together, and it really wouldn't be that big of a deal because everybody would be using their actual brains and thinking, and then everybody would just go and we'd stand up. We go, no, you can't do that. And it would end, and it'd be very simple. So for this level of dysfunction to be happening collectively by the people that represent us, think about what I just said. People that represent us, they represent us. And we think that they're in control somehow. I don't understand why, but that society is delusional, it's backwards, it's confused, it's unhappy, it's not experiencing life on a happy level, and we want to be like them. And we're sitting over here trying to work on ourselves, trying to find happiness, and we're going, I wish I could be more like the dysfunctional people. Please slap yourself. They have nothing you want. The people you are pointing your finger at, the millionaires that are killing themselves in their freaking $14 million house basement. Yeah, them. They've got nothing that you want. Oh, my life would be better if I had a relationship, if I had a house, if I had a car, if I had more friends, if I had more social stuff. This is, again, recovery taught me a lot of this stuff on a foundational level. And then I was able to take it out into the world and use it on another level. In recovery, they teach you do not need anything to be different to recover from alcoholism or drug addiction. You do not need anything to be different, because this is most people. If I could only get a job, then I just have to eat. I just have to have a roof over my head. If my wife would only take me back, if my kids would talk to me, if, no, none of it has to be what you think it needs to be for you to be happy, because happiness comes from within. All that's external. So what you need is an inner reorganization. Has nothing to do with the external things. Understanding that you are part of, you are one. There's hundreds of millions of us that are on a spiritual path, and that's just the beginning, man. Like, we are, well, I think we're past the beginning of waking up. I think we're at the beginning, maybe the very beginning, maybe in the 60s. But like, the dramatic shift that I've seen just in the last 20 years since I've been on this path, 19 years since I've been on this path, it's amazing. It's amazing. And the speed that has picked up in the last 5 years is mind-boggling. It's just, we are going, man. We are on our way. We are waking up, and more of us are doing it. And part of what's causing all the uncomfortable feelings inside, that's bubbling up inside of everyone. I mean, I'm telling you, I bet you, seriously now, I'm gonna try to put this into perspective. I don't think I've ever said this way, but I bet you at least, I bet you about 75% of the planet is waking up now. It's kind of an opposite 75% that I was just talking about with the dysfunction. Okay, so you have 75% of people that are living in dysfunction, 25% that are not. Now, erase that. Okay, now we're back at 100%, and go, okay, now we have 75% that are waking up. That is probably 25% that we're aware that are waking up and are living happily and all that stuff. And another 50% that haven't even started yet, man. They don't even know. They don't even know that they're awakening. But it's that uncomfortableness. I mean, think about it. Think about how our grandparents talked. They were fine, man. They were a different breed of people. They were different generations. They functioned differently. They were made differently. They didn't have this spiritual awakening bubbling up inside of them. So for them to sit in a factory and put pieces together for piecework 10 hours a day, and have a crappy little house that they worked on all the time to make look good, and maybe one car that they shared, like, that was good. And some kids, they were satisfied. And back then, satisfied was enough. They were like, no, that's good. No, I'm good. I don't need more. I'm good. They complain a little bit. They'd be thankful a little bit, but they were good. They were actually good. Now, nobody's like that. Nobody's good. Like the people who have $100 million need $500 million. The people who have $1 billion need 10 billion. Nobody is good. Nobody is satisfied. And people think it's money. No, it's incongruencies with life. It's being maladjusted to life. It's because the awakening is bubbling up within us, and we are supposed to awaken to the reality that there is more to life. There is peace, there is happiness, there is love, there is peace, there is joy. And if we don't turn to those energies, we are going to kill ourselves off as a species. This is why we are awakening, because we have to as a species, or we are going to die off soon. So we are awakening to this. And it's bubbling up within everybody. And this is why everybody's distracting themselves, because they don't like the way they feel when they sit still. So they stay busy. They take drugs. They're unhappy for 20 years. And then they go to the doctor and they go, I'm really depressed. And they go, well, let's take your blood work. Oh, yeah. Your body isn't producing the things that make you happy. Yeah, it's because you've been miserable for 20 freaking years. No wonder why. If you haven't been happy for 20 years, your body stops producing, serotonin and stuff. It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you're freaking miserable. You're maladjusted to life. Your body isn't producing anything of joy because you don't experience joy. So this is what's happening to our bodies. This is how a global spiritual awakening happens. It happens from each individual. This is what's meant by be the change you wish to see. The way we change society is by changing ourselves. Like we work on you to become happy and understand that the people who you think are happy on the outside are not. They don't have anything that you think that they do, and connect with other people like you. There's hundreds of millions of us that are already awake. Reach out, find communities, churches, and you can do all that stuff, but it's, it's a change of perspective, man. When I got this, my life hadn't changed. I was homeless, no car. My body was literally shutting down. I was physically dying. I couldn't hold a job. My son was 1,400 miles away. Like you name it. I was mentally, spiritually, physically, financially bankrupt. And then all of a sudden, everything was wonderful. And none of that had changed yet. It's perspective. It's a shift of perspective. And I understand that it's not easy, but it is simple. We have to stop complicating it, because that's what takes us off. We go, oh, am I happy yet? Keeping score. Am I happy yet? No. I can guarantee you the answer is no, because you're asking. If you're happy, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be like, man, I've been happy for a long time. When did that happen? You don't have to check to find out if you're happy. So if you're checking to find out if you're happy, you're not. Stop checking. Stop keeping score. Stop trying to figure out if you're there yet, because there is no finish line. You never get there. Happiness is right here, right now. That's the only place it is. It's the only time it exists. There is nothing other than the now. So if you spend your time trying to just be in the present moment and feel that the sense of peace that's there, because nothing's wrong in the present moment. Even if you're feeling anxiety, that means you're not fully in the present moment. But even then, you can be sitting there. I am feeling anxiety. I'm okay. There happens to be some anxiety energy. That's a good thing, is create separation between you and whatever you're experiencing. If you think you're anxious, that's a problem, because you think something's wrong with you. So create separation between you and it. not in an egoic way, in a reality way. You are not anxious. You have anxious energy that has attached to you for some particular reason because of the way that you were looking at life for a while. So you've created, so there's some anxiety energy that's attached to you. So you can be sitting there, you can be fine. There can be some anxiety energy attached to you, and you can still understand that you're okay. I'm sitting in this chair. I'm not dying. There's no sword being pierced through my heart at this particular moment. Nobody's cutting off my head. There's some anxiety energy that's attached there. So it's not particularly pleasant, but it is what it is. It just is. I'm okay. The more you can do that, the more you can latch on to positive experiences, the more moments you can have where you're not focused on the negative and you're focused on something that you're grateful for. The more you can do that, the more you feed it, the more it's going to become part of the way you look at life. And to understand that everybody else is doing this too. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just part of an unconscious society. We're waking up. The very fact that you feel uncomfortable is your biggest asset. Because if you didn't feel uncomfortable, if you weren't experiencing anxiety or suffering, then you have no chance of waking up. You just run around bumping into freaking walls again. Boom. I'll live another 150 years unconscious. Are you happy? I don't know. I'm too busy taking drugs or focused on Facebook. I'm not sure. I don't think. Am I what? Happy? What do you mean? Okay. So the very fact that you're awakening to your suffering and you're trying to do something about it means that you were one of the ones that is supposed to wake up, and you're not denying it anymore. You're not pushing it away. You're actually trying to do it. And that's all it takes. If you just try, you'll get there. As long as you stop putting yourself back into the terminal unique. No, you don't understand. I'm really messed up. Oh, I'm the only one that thinks like this. Oh, you don't understand. Oh, I'm suffering. Did I tell you I was suffering? I'm suffering. Feel bad for me, because that's how I steal your energy. If you feel bad for me because I'm suffering. It's, like, I understand, I do have compassion. I do, but I am not going to sit there and tell you guys something that's not going to help. I'm not going to do that. I have to give you the information that if you latch onto it, it can help you. Do you want to know that I have compassion and I feel compassion for your suffering? I do. Let me look into the camera. I feel deep compassion for your suffering. I've been there. It's not fun. I get it. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're suffering. I'm sorry that this is the way it is, but it is. So all I can do to try to help you is to give you the information about how life actually works and what the dynamics actually are. Then you can, instead of being maladjusted to life, you can be well adjusted to life. And when you get there, that's when you'll find happiness. It's just, it's in, that's where you'll experience it on a consistent basis. You can find happiness right here. Happiness isn't, somewhere out there. It's not in the future. You will never do anything to make yourself happy. The only time you're ever going to be happy is in the moment. So just be happy as often as you can and listen to this stuff, but don't take it too seriously, man. Because then it's just another intellectual thing for you to do. Oh, that made sense. So since it made sense, I feel a little bit better. So that must be the key to happiness. So then I'll find 432 more things that make sense so I can experience 432 little bits of this thing that I think is happiness, where all it is just a momentary aha moment that's fleeting and goes away. But maybe if I gather enough of those, then I'll have the key to happiness. You must have to build it out of pieces. Like, no, man, there's there's nothing outside of you that's going to make you happy. You just have to find it within you and understand that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong. Like, you're fine. You're awakening, and it's uncomfortable, and I get it. Accept it and lean into joy, lean into love, lean into happiness. Find it. It's just right there. It's when you get still. And you just relax a little bit. And whatever's bothering you, just put it aside for a second. And then that contentment, that, it can be all kinds of words: peace, contentment, joy, happiness, satisfaction. Somebody said to me many years ago, I said, they asked me how I was. I said, and I like to think and actually give an answer. And I said, content. There was this girl I was dating a long time ago, and I said, content. And she goes, oh, I love that word. And it made me think of it more. I'm like, yeah, me too. I love that word, content. It's awesome. That's what we're looking for. Just to sit here and be here and realize that nothing has to be different for us to feel content. Just being alive is enough. Every animal, every plant is in what I forgot who said it. Might have been Beckwith. He said something like every plant and animal is in ecstasy for just the sheer fact of being alive. And here we are struggling, making it all complicated. We're just being alive is enough to feel content. That's it. I'm just here. That feels good. That's all. So you are just another bozo on the bus. We're all on this journey, man. And there's times when I get overwhelmed and frustrated and yell, and then I remember that everything is fine and it's okay. 19 years later, I still get frustrated and yell, this is ridiculous. I get caught up. I get sucked in, pulled in. I lean in, whatever. Then I lean back out and I go, oh, that was human of me. I must still be human. Oh, well. It's okay. It's okay. We're not supposed to be perfect on a human level. We're perfect on the eternal level. We're fine. So relax, be another bozo on the bus, find some compassion, knowing that you are just knowing. You don't have to, like when the Dalai Lama talks about compassion and connection to the community, he doesn't have to sit there and go, okay, I have to understand that I'm part of a community, so that will make me feel better because I'm really overwhelmed with all the murders and the killing that's going on with the people that I represent. So now, I have to, could you call up about like 100 Tibetan people, and could you get them to stand in a big circle and give me a hug so I can feel like I'm part of the community, and that way I don't feel bad? That's not what he does. It's just an intellectual exercise. You just understand that you are part of a community. You are part of, we're all alike. We're all stumbling down this road of life. We all suffer. We all make it through. There's a 15-year-old girl at home right now with a broken heart for the first time from her first love that thinks that she's literally going to die. Can we have compassion for her? Can we understand that maybe we'll make it through too? I used to think about stuff like that, like when I was going through a breakup and a heartache, because I want to dive into that poor me, terminal uniqueness, poor me stuff. And I'd be like, there's people, teenagers, People all over the world, literally, probably, there very well could be close to 1 billion people suffering from a heartache right now on the planet. And I'm gonna sit here and let it overwhelm me like I have no. Oh my God, this is all you don't understand. No, come on, man. Everybody goes through a heartache. We'll get through this. People go through depression. We can get through it. We can do this. We can get through whatever you're going through. We can do it. People do it all the freaking time. Every day, people have gotten through whatever you're going through. There's been millions of people that have been through it and have gotten through it. Find solace in that, just understanding that. You don't have to go get in the middle of all of them or connect to all of them. Just sit there and be like, okay, people go through this stuff and it's not that serious. Lean back away from it and be like, if they can get through it, I'll get through it. And relax a little bit and you'll get through it. You're going to be fine. All right, peeps, that'll do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. Oh, and I saw that comment, Pat. Thank you. So that's going to do it. All right, you guys have a great week, and I'll talk with you soon.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons and Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.